right, folks, it's time for another episode of what we call the MCO Lockdown episode of the Jiggee Jon Show. And today I'm dialing in with my man in Hong Kong, Mr. Robert Rogers of EventsMan. What's up, buddy?
Hey, how you doing, man?
Right, very good. Thank you. Welcome to the show, and thank you very much for making time. I know you are also being quarantined at home.
I have plenty of time at the moment.
Yeah, because I couldn't help but notice your article that, or at least your blog post that became an interview on mixed meetings. And when I read it, I'm like, wait a minute, I need to talk to this guy because he's got a story and a half, only because of what you mentioned from your SARS experience.
Oh, yeah.
So, you know, I don't know anyone else in the industry who has gone through something like that, who's able to remember it and can actually shed a lot of light for the rest of us who are for the first time experiencing a global pandemic at this scale, you know? So we'll get to that later. But Robert, let's start off with where you're from.
So I'm originally from the US. I've been in Hong Kong now though for over 30 years. So I've actually been here longer than anywhere else. So when you say where I'm from, I feel as though I'm from Hong Kong, and when I'm back in the US, people go, "Where are you from?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm from Hong Kong." Or if I'm in Europe, I'll say I'm from Hong Kong, and they're like, "Oh, you don't look Chinese." And I'm like,
"Yeah." Where did you grow up in America?
So I was born in Arizona, but then moved to San Francisco when I was about 10. So I grew up in the Bay Area, around Palo Alto, as Silicon Valley was just coming into play. It was, you know, that area, Mountain View, Palo Alto, they're right next door to each other. And then as soon as I was old enough, I moved up to San Francisco, moved to the city.
Oh wow! So you're sorry.
Go ahead.
No, I said I never realized that you were, well, I didn't know you from San Fran, and I knew you from States, but I mean, as long as I've known you, which is about a decade now, it's only been Hong Kong, and I know that you've been in Hong Kong for a while. But wow! So how did you? Well, wait, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't the biggest Chinatown outside of, I guess, China in San Fran? That's what they say.
Maybe there's a big Chinatown there. I remember, I remember going through it. It's a big one. It might be the biggest one. I know the largest Thai community outside of Thailand is in LA, but I have no idea about the biggest. It would be San Francisco or New York. Most likely San Francisco, because there were so many immigrants came over in the 1800s, coming over to help build the railroads and all that. So it's a big, there's a big Chinese community, but most of the Asians that I know they're Americans. They're not. Right?
Yeah. They're all fourth generation at this point, or third generation, plus minus. Yeah. So how did you end up in Hong Kong? How did that happen?
I was chasing a girl. I didn't get her. I found a different one, but no, I was I was working and doing a lot of restaurant work and stuff like that, and wanted to get out of San Francisco. A girl that I had been seeing, she had gone off traveling, and her sister was going to go meet her in Hong Kong, and so I said, "Oh, I'll come with you, but let's not tell Leslie. We won't tell her about it. We'll just surprise her," which just really was not a good idea. Right. But anyway, so I showed up in Hong Kong kind of unannounced, going, "Hey, I'm here, welcome." And she was like, "What the fuck? What are you doing here?" Okay, great, fine. Luckily, she's a very cool lady, so we worked around things. So I came to Hong Kong the first time. Kind of opened up my eyes to a whole different way of life and a whole different people from around the world. Was living with a lot of Scottish and British people, and meeting Hong Kong people, and then went traveling. Went through Thailand for a while. Went around China, and this was 87. Went around China and stuff, and then ran out of money and was trying to do some work. I was in Bangkok, and I was teaching English there for a little while, trying to do some work, and then I managed to get myself back into Hong Kong. And at that time, being an American, you only got a 1-month visa, so I was having to leave. I was having to leave Hong Kong every month to try and keep my visa going, and I couldn't work legally, and was lots of trouble. So I ended up going back to the States for some while, making some money, and then as soon as I had some money, I was out of there and left again. Came back, and then I spent some more time Thailand, Malaysia, Singapore, and then I was in Australia for about 6 months, where I met my wife now. I met her there, and we decided to go traveling. We met up again in Bangkok, and we were on our way to India. Didn't have quite enough money to get out of India, enough to get in, but not to get out. It's just not a place to get stuck. And we said, well, you know, I have some friends in Hong Kong, or we could go to Taipei. And being Hong Kong, my wife's British, and being British at the time, she could work. And so we thought, okay, we'll do 6 months in Hong Kong, and yeah, we've been here 30 years now. So yeah.
Wow, what a story! I mean, like, I didn't know your wife was English. I thought she was American.
She's Welsh. She's Welsh.
Ah, isn't that
English?
Isn't that where Tom Jones is from?
Yeah. I think he's from South Wales. She's from North.
Why I remember is about 15 years ago, I did a wedding for a Welsh lady, and we got her a Tom Jones tribute artist.
Oh, excellent.
And he's one of the best in the region. He's actually Malaysian, ironically, and he actually looks like Tom. He actually looks like Tom Jones. I'll send you his video. And my lord, he set the women on fire that night. The ladies just lost the plot.
Cool.
Yeah.
Tom Jones was out. He was out here a couple of times. He did the CLSA convention, which used to be a big thing. I was working on that one, helping that out. He's an amazing performer. He just works it so hard. And the ladies are so funny with their underwear, throwing their underwear at him and stuff.
Exactly. No, you're right. It seems to be the thing. It's a Tom Jones thing, like, you know, and True Blue fans, the girls just lose their mind. So that was an eye opener. So tell me, how in the world did you get into events, or how did you set up an event business?
Well, so my background. So as a growing up in San Francisco in the Bay Area, I was fascinated with theater, and I was doing a lot of theater. Well, not a lot, but I was doing theater and studying acting and stuff like that. In the meantime, as aspiring actors do, you know, you work waiting tables, working in restaurants, and so I work front of house, back of house, you know, baristas, doing everything I could. Then the restaurant that I was working for, we started doing some offsite catering. So, you know, was doing working there, we're doing weddings and private parties and stuff like that. And then when I left and came here, like I said, I couldn't legally work here. And then also moving around Asia, I couldn't really get a job working in a restaurant. So was doing a lot of started busking. So I could, you know, I played a bit of banjo and was kind of getting myself around by playing music on the streets. And then doing that, I met a couple of circus performers. One was a fire eater, and the other one was a stilt walker. And the fire eater taught me how not to kill myself, and the stilt walker gave me a stilts, and I walked off on them because I've got pretty good balance. And then suddenly I was, you know, put my acting skills to that. I started. I was a circus performer, and then I got a job working a gig at the country club. I did 6 hours of fire eating, but I made more money than I had made, you know, doing anything else. I was like, yes, this is it. I'm going to be a performer. By the end of that 6 hours, though, my lips were just like, you know, blistered. My tongue was blistered all over. But anyway, yeah. So was performing. I started working with a circus clown who was also a traveler who had come. She'd come to Hong Kong. And you know, she taught me some of the basics of theatrical clowning, whiteface and grotesque clowning and all of that. So we were doing circus acts. I would get a booking for something, and somebody would say, oh, that's great, we'll take you, but hey, we need a juggler, and I'd be like, oh, I know, there's this juggler coming through, let's get him, So I started
hold on. Mm-hmm. Hold on. You've been a clown?
I am a clown. Yes. Yeah. Lofty Heights is my clown character.
How come you never told me this?
Well, we never talked about it, but yeah.
You know that I was also a clown, right?
I know. We have a very similar sort of career path, I think, coming from the circus side and
wow. I didn't know that, man. Okay, continue. Wow, I'm learning something new every day. Okay.
Should have gotten some photos out. We could have done show and tell. Whiteface stilt walking clown. So I played the straight guy. Lofty Heights is he's a little bit bumbling, but he's the serious one. So I was doing was doing Lofty Heights character, which was a stilt walking clown character, and then started working with a magician, Jeremy Dane, and we had a show, the Lofty Heights and the Great Dane, and we were doing kid shows, family shows, and we also then started doing some adult versions, and I had a different character for the adult shows, and then he had a really bad accident. This was 97. He had died of an overdose, and we had all these gigs booked, and it was like everyone was like, "Oh, you can't cancel," and so suddenly I was like, "Okay, I know the tricks, I'll do the tricks," and so suddenly I was a magician, and so started focusing on doing the magic. I mean, I was doing magic all along, but before it was, he was the magician, I was the assistant, but I was the box hopper. So, I was the one doing all the work behind the scenes. And we had a couple of big illusion shows and stuff that we were doing at the time. But yeah, so suddenly I was a magician. And then I found myself, booking talent to do the thing. We would go to the venue, go to the organizer, and I'd be like, right, so I'm going to need stage size 20 by 14, and then I'm going to need a backdrop, and we're going to need some intelligent lighting and a PA system suitable for the venue. And I'd go, what? And I go, tell you what, let me sort it. So doing the technical stuff. Then I started realizing that people were paying a lot for that backdrop, and sometimes they're paying more for the backdrop than they're paying for me, and I was like, I can do that. So, we started doing the decoration, and then started doing more management, started organizing, and then it got to the point that, I would send out the invitations, I would show up the night before, be up all night setting stuff up, climbing ladders, hanging things. Then I would switch into my tuxedo, and I'd be there greeting guests as they arrived. Then I would be on stage, and I would be the MC for the show, and then then I have to take it all down and all of that. And finally, I just went, what, this is crazy. I can't do it all. I need to focus one way or the other. So I kind of split the company, and I still perform every once in a while, but once a year now, mostly for charity shows. But since 2000, I just really organize. So for the last 18 years, only manage.
So hold on. When did you set up the company, EventsMan, or is that later?
We're coming into our 20th year now.
Oh wow!
EventsMan is 20 years old. Magic Circus.
We have the exact same timeline. Like Jiggee turns 20 this year as well.
Okay. So Magic Circus is 30 years old. So yeah. For about 10 years.
Okay. Oh wow! So do you still have the company, Magic Circus?
Yeah. It's kind of dormant. Magic Circus is a sole proprietorship, whereas EventsMan is limited. So
Understand.
If I burn down the hotel, then as EventsMan, they can only take they can only take the company.
I mean, I feel like I'm listening to my own story because it's exactly what I used to do. I used to go as a clown to events, and I'm like, wait a minute, it's not rocket science. I can put a backdrop up. I can rent a PA system. I can and I was like, wow, I didn't know that.
Well, I think that's
That's
more. You say it's not rocket science, but you're absolutely right. Anybody can do it, but not everybody can understand what it takes to connect with people and to motivate people. And so I think coming from an entertainment standpoint, it's a little bit different because you look at it as how to engage people. Whereas a lot of people that are in our industry now, they're come from they've learned it in school, so they're just by the book, right? Oh, we need to have this, we need to have this, we need to have this, and there's no, when you go to that sort of event, there's no, they don't get the feeling, they don't hit that X spot. Whereas I think with entertainers, they get it, and they get the fact that you need to. You need to engage audiences, and you need to take them on this ride that takes them up and down. So not rocket science, but there's more to it than that performers have an innate understanding that other people don't.
it's funny you literally just said what I've been saying for a while now, because for the last couple of years I've had the opportunity to hire a lot of fresh graduates who come out of school having studied event management.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because it's such a new thing. Like it's been offered as a degree, I would say, at a very serious level only in the last 6 to 7 years, or 8 years max. It's become a huge thing, so the first batches of those who rolled out as 4-year degree students in event management, and then when they come out, I'm like, sure, so you got a degree now, you're ready to run an event, and I give them that challenge, and then they're like, and then, and then and then they look at how we do things, and then they realize like, whoa, like textbooks versus School of Hard Knocks.
You don't you don't know until you know. And you can't. It's really so. I teach. I've been teaching for the last couple of years. I teach at Hong Kong University at the night school, and teaching festival and event management. And a lot of the students there, they're quite intelligent. They know they get it, and they really know what's going on. But trying to get across that concept of engagement and getting people in leadership as well, because there's a big, that's a major part of being an event manager, is getting everybody on your team and having people want to do a good job, as well as feel as though they're having some input into it. There's a lot of it that being an entertainer, it comes for us much more naturally than it would come from somebody who doesn't have that background.
That is true. I mean, I never knew that I could have just literally sat down and yacked with you, because we understand what goes on in our heads. Because sometimes people are like, are you mad? Like, what are you thinking of? Like, we're wired differently, and we come from a different background. We've interesting. So I want to ask you this. Like, I mean, it really sounds that when you experienced what happened in 2003 when SARS came online, you had already been in the business, Magic Circus. It sounds like maybe you've been in the industry more than about 10 years plus. Am I right? Yeah. So when I read what you read, I'm like, wait a minute, I need to talk to Robert about this, because this is my first pandemic. When in 2003, I was still a one-man show operating out of my bedroom. Things were hunky-dory. Everything was just woohoo. I was just starting out. Now, when I fast forwarded to today, I got a team. I'm responsible for a lot of people, and the future seems rather bleak. So I actually wanted to ask you, like, if you can remember going back 17 years now, how that entire period during SARS in Hong Kong and your business, how the turnaround time came around, and how did you handle it, and how did the industry handle it? Because I really think it's going to help a lot of us in events to hear it from you, what you experienced in 2003. Because I genuinely think, as business owners, as event business owners, as show producers, would be good to hear what you experienced then, because I think a lot of it will resonate well even today.
Yes, I mean, been thinking about it a lot. Obviously, got a lot of time to and it was quite interesting because I was just in Las Vegas speaking at the special event, and I was there in the U.S. as the wave started to come across. When I left, it looked like Hong Kong. It was under control. Things were happening. The U.S. was saying, "Oh no, 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 it'll be fine." Yeah. As that week progressed, it just got more and more interesting. And when I first got there, I would go to shake hands with people would come to shake hands with me, and I'd be like, "Oh, live long and prosper," and they'd be like, "Oh, what's this all about?" And they'd kind of slightly put off and slightly offended about me not wanting to go around shaking hands and spraying constantly with disinfectant. I wasn't wearing a mask because I had no symptoms. But anyway, the one of the main differences I think between this time, between COVID and between SARS, SARS was Hong Kong and Toronto. In Hong Kong and Toronto, because we managed to squash it through social distancing, through closing things down, through all of the things that we're going through right now, we managed to squash it. We actually managed to get rid of it entirely. So then, when the summer came around, and the virus was dying back naturally anyway, it disappeared. Now, there has been a few isolated cases, mostly people working with it in laboratories where it's gotten out, but other than that, it's gone. This time, I think one of the interesting thing will be to look at is what happens in the next couple of months. So as the summertime comes around, there's all these countries that are not taking it very seriously, or that there's all these people that are it hasn't been able to run its course, and I don't think we'll be able to squash it in the same way that we did with SARS. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with that.
Okay.
The other good thing about with SARS was that yes, Hong Kong was shut down, but there was still stuff happening outside. So it was just much more localized. So the comeback was much quicker. I think this one's going to be quite interesting. So how the world will come back to it. With SARS, there was a while there that was pretty desperate because everything similar like this, everything was canceled, and as a gig worker at the time, because that's what we were going gig to gig, had no income coming in, and it was screwed. I was taking jobs in China, in mainland, where SARS had come from, and at the time China wasn't quite as developed as it was now. So you really had no idea what was going on with it. So when you're flying on planes and stuff, it felt very risky. I kind of see that now, as people get desperate, one of the dangers is that they're going to put themselves into risky scenarios and possibly then bring it back. One of the things that I see for us in the events world is the whole world saw it with SARS as well, is the whole mindset will change. So here in Hong Kong, since we had SARS, all the black spots where there was we had rubbish in the alley, and where it was kind of like dirty and grotty and who knows what was growing back there, those are all gone now. Those have all been cleaned up seriously. We have lifts and things like that are constantly being disinfected, not just now, but they have always been. We have hand sanitizers in public buildings near lifts all over the place, and that has been for the last 10 years that's come in. One of the reasons that Hong Kong's been able to deal with COVID so well is because we have in place already in the airports and stuff, we have screening that as you come through, they're looking for fever. As you go through, they're scanning you and doing thermal checks on people, and that hasn't stopped the entire time. So anytime somebody was coming through with a fever, they'd pull them aside. Hey, where are you coming from? So when MERS came through, when they're having the Ebola and all of that sort of stuff, they raise and lower the alerts. So similar to like terrorism, there's like this alert level that we have built in the system now, and within the people within Hong Kong, that as the level goes up to red, more stuff starts coming in and starts happening. So Hong Kong's been able to deal, I think, quite well with this, but because we're so centralized and so many people coming through, that's going to change. That's going to change how the outcome will come out. My hope, my fingers crossed, is that come summertime, it dies out, the virus mutates to become something that's not so dangerous, and it becomes more of a common cold, and we just get used to it. And the rest of the world then, starts to implement systems within their events that, monitor the safety of the participants. Because, as event managers, that is one of our main roles. One of the things that I see for my own business personally, in short to medium term, I see events, festivals, big stuff like that. There's going to be just so much fear, because of natural fear, both from participants as well as from organizers, as well as insurance, that those big events they're not going to happen so much. They're going to get scaled down quite a lot. But smaller, more personal events are going to get more important, and they're going to take up a bigger role in our organizing. So people still want to meet, they still want to get together, but they want to lessen the risk. And so one of the first ways to do that is to scale down the event. And then on top of that, then you put in the monitoring situations of thermal scanning, temperature checks, communicating to your attendees. Please don't come if you're not feeling well. Just don't come. We'll refund your money, no problem. Just don't come. There's a big communication thing.
Sorry.
As far as for the industry, will be very interesting because of the shakeup. So we were already moving more towards a much more gig economy within our industry. Of the big agencies were all downsizing, and the big agencies were hiring individual managers on a project basis. That I think is just going to continue even more. There's going to be a lot of holes in there, because a lot of these companies they're not going to make it. It's just not going to be possible for them to go on. So there's going to be a lot of downsizing. And then when the gigs do start to come back up, there's also a lot of opportunity in there for the smaller players to be able to go, hey, I survived. I'm still here. It's those bigger ones. Read exhibitions. Those major exhibition companies, and those guys, they're going to get slaughtered in this. People that have a lot of staff that are trying to work from home but no income. And for small business owners like myself, I'm really lucky, because I did have staff about 4 or 5 months ago, but we were just having a little change around anyway, and I thought, well, let's hold off and see what happens. So currently I've just got myself to worry about, which so for me it's great, but for guys like you, it's going to be really hard, because you're going to have some really hard decisions to make. I had some interesting conversations with some other business owners and other event guys in Las Vegas, and some of the things that we were talking about was it's not these people that are working for you, they're family.
You're right. It's really that. It's really that.
But at the same time, it is a business, and this business, one of the best analogies I heard was that sometimes you have to amputate the arm to save the body, and that's that's really sad. Luckily, in a lot of countries, there's a lot of great programs coming in to pay for salaries. We've seen that in the U.S. is happening a lot. There in Hong Kong, they've initiated a thing where they're paying up to 50% of salaries for SMEs, which that's really helpful because that's enough. You can at least keep them on, or or at least keep them alive. And keep them, because once you lose a member of the family, trying to get them back is going to be really hard. One of the people that I feel the most sorry for in this environment, and I'm working on a thing right now with a group, is our gig workers. Yeah. So, our musicians, clowns, jugglers, all of those people, because they're working gig to gig, and a lot of those guys they don't have any savings.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
And it is going to be another. It'll be another. At least until October is the next time that I see anything happening. That's when my next gigs come in, is October. So fingers crossed that the virus doesn't come back in December as strong as it has been this time. Because otherwise that leaves a little window. October, November is going to be really, really busy, and then suddenly everybody's going to panic and it's all going to cancel again for another 6 months. It's tricky. It's tricky. The only thing that I can say from my experience of SARS is it will pass. It will pass. You just gotta dig yourself in and be as creative as possible, and figure out how you can save what you can, and how you can then branch out and create new revenue streams. So I was just talking with a poet who does gigs for. He sets up his typewriter at the event, and he writes out poetry on the spot. It's really cool. It's very beatnik. It's very, very modern. It's very soulful. But obviously he's a poet. Poets are renowned for never having any money, and so he's fucked. He's screwed at this point. So he's trying to create some other revenue stream that he can. So he's going to places like hiring he's going to businesses, and he's trying to help them with engagement for their employees, and kind of doing some soulful stuff for their employees to raise morale within them. So then he's getting on Skype and doing doing poetry for them and stuff. And hopefully there's at least there's something for him there. Another magician I know he's a psychic entertainer. He's doing online psychic shows.
Oh wow!
He's also doing some guided meditation stuff, which is same thing. And he is managing to keep it going, just like a little bit. It's not big money spinners, but they help to pay the rent. But yeah, being creative into what is possible. There's also one of the other things, I don't even need to say it, is that people are now getting really used to this whole screen thing. So, man, every event is going to have some sort of virtual component from now on. Yep. You got to get, it's just going to have to be part of the mix. Whereas before it was sort of this weird thing. Oh, we could do, we could have a live streaming session.
Yeah.
Now it's, so here's the live streaming session. You're also seeing some really interesting virtual events taking place around the world. So within the magic community, for instance, there's like 10,000 magicians on these workshop and on these lectures that are going around within the Society of American Magicians and International Brotherhood of Magicians, and you got all these Vegas stars kind of doing lectures for them. There's also some in the clowning community. They're starting to do some of those. So yeah, there's stuff happening that didn't exist before. So there's new opportunities. Yeah. And as to how it's all going to turn out, like I say, it will go away. We'll come back stronger, hopefully. In the meantime, I'm the meantime, I'm just trying not to get depressed. They canceled Burning Man today.
Oh, I know. Yeah, you're a big fan of that. I think you've gone at least
Oh,
what, 3 times in the last couple of years, 4 times.
yeah, exactly. Every year, I'm part of I'm part of a build crew. I go spend a couple of weeks out in the desert beforehand, helping to set up and take down afterwards. So I'm out there for a month, and it's hard because they are. You would have thought of all the events in the world, they are the most resilient because there are. It's part of their ethos is resilience, but I think what it comes down to is probably the powers that be, the authorities are going, yeah, no, it's not going to happen this year. So I think the Bureau of Land Management has probably declined their applications, and the law enforcement communities and all of that sort of stuff is like, we can't deal with this as well. So
when was it supposed to happen? When was it? When did you?
September. It's Memorial Day weekend in the U.S. Labor Day, Memorial Day, whatever.
And where does it happen?
So usually it happens 1st of September, last weekend of August.
Yeah. No, whereabouts though?
Where? In the Black Rock Desert. So right out in the middle of Nevada, literally in the middle of no place, in the most inhospitable environment that you could possibly imagine. There's like wind and dust and sometimes rain and freezing at night and burning hot during the day. And they go out there and it's the playa. So it's during the winter time, it's like this deep in water. And then during the summertime, it's just flat, white, powdery, really alkali dust that just gets everywhere. It's horrible. It's really, really awful. It's just terrible. It's an awful thing to do. But there's 100,000 of us out there that just kind of go crazy and love it because the community is quite strong. Community is really strong, and it's some of the best elements I think of the U.S. It's that whole counterculture thing.
And how long has Burning Man been running?
So before I left San Francisco in 1987, there was so I think the first one started about 85. It basically started with one guy down on the beach in Ocean Beach and a few of his friends. He had a really shit year, and he made an effigy of everything that represented his year. So it was like a Guy Fawkes thing. And they went down on the beach and they got drunk and they set it on fire and danced around the bonfire. And it became a releasing sort of thing. And so the next year they invited a few more friends. When I went in 87 was the last one that they had on Baker Beach. And it was a 20-foot guy that they said were trying to set on fire, and the fire department came and the police came, and it was just a shit show. And after that, they moved out to Black Rock, and I moved to Asia. So I always watched it, just thinking I had always watched it grow, and kind of thought, oh, that was that thing that was down on the beach. I want to see what happens with it. And as it grew, it just became, more and more of everything. Yeah. But yeah, it's a really interesting community. I use it as a big example in my lectures for volunteers, because there's no money. No money exchanges hands at Burning Man at all. It's okay. You can buy ice and you can buy coffee. That's the only two things that you can buy. Everything else, it's a gifting economy. So everything else there is given freely. So you have people that make food. And they just, at 3 o'clock every day, they're going to make ham sandwiches, and they feed, they'll feed 500 people ham sandwiches for, every day. For ourselves, one of the camps that I'm involved with, we have we build it's about a 50-foot by 100-foot shade structure made of like a big parachute. And then we have about 40 hammocks underneath. And then we have a full bar and a karaoke lounge just going the whole time. And it's a bar, so you walk up to it, we pour you a drink. Everybody carries their own cups, so we just pour you a drink of whatever. And we like to pride ourselves that it's only premium liquor as well. So yeah, it's fun. And of course karaoke going the whole time.
So who funds all this? Like, who funds the show or who funds the event?
It's all. I mean, it does cost to go. So they build a city. So they do build. They have toilets which come in. They put in roads. They have buses coming and going and stuff like that. And so it does cost to go. It's about $400 for a ticket. Um, but beyond that, everything is donated, gifted. Everything is just gifted. The whole economy is based around gifting. They've got 10 principles of resilience, immediacy, gifting, no commodification. So there's no branding on anything. Even if you're driving like a rental truck, a U-Haul truck, you're supposed to cover the U-Haul sign on it because there's no logos allowed anywhere within the city. It's fascinating. From an event management standpoint, it's fascinating. People spend their entire year and a lot of money to build stuff, big art sculptures, art cars that do fantastic things like blowing fire and just some beautiful pieces of art. And they will spend their entire life building this thing just to take it out to the desert to show it off to people, to present it to people for them to have an experience with. One of the best parts about it, so they do this big man, which they build this big man, which they set on fire, and every year is a little bit different. And the man burns on the Saturday. The man is a big party. Everybody's drunk, dancing around the man. But then they also have behind the man, there's the temple. The temple is the spiritual part of it. So in the past, where the man used to be the place to release your stuff, he kind of became a big party, and it got away from the spiritual aspect of it. And that was when they brought in the temple, which I think was around 2000 or something. And the temple, people will bring stuff they need to release for the year, from the year. So there's a lot of memorials for people that have lost people. There's a lot of. I met one lady who she had, she'd had a really shit time over her life with addictions to drugs and losing her daughter and all this stuff, and she had turned her life around, had gotten her MBA in marketing, and she had this box, and it was like photographs, and it was the last of her old life, and she was bringing it to the temple, and so she leaving the temple, and then on the Sunday, they burned the temple, and it's the time for release. And that's really one of the main things. So yeah, it's got all sorts of things, but I use Burning Man as an example, some of the stuff that they do for motivating volunteers, because the way that they motivate people, because everybody there is more or less a volunteer, and the way that they motivate people and the way that they create this sense of community, I've not seen anywhere else. It's fascinating.
It sounds like it needs its own Netflix special, just like the Fire event had their own.
Yeah, there's lots of stuff out there if you look for it. I mean, one of the things about it is, of course, the non-commodification. So they're quite. There's also the people use Burning Man as an opportunity to be whoever they want to be whatever they want to be, to let their inner self come out. Right. So you get, because of the location and the background of it, you get a lot of like Silicon Valley type of people and stuff. So, for instance, it was a rumor for a while that Google didn't hire anybody unless they'd been to the burn for upper management. It's because they wanted them to have that sense of community and what was possible in the world. So you get a lot of, Elon Musk. He goes out there quite regularly. And because of the way it is, they're just people wandering around. They're just burners, and you'll be in a bar, and you could be having a drink with Elon and not know it. Talking about something else.
Right.
It has a, and it's part of one of their other principles is inclusivity. So no matter who you are, what you are, they bring them along. One of my good friends that he's there every year. He's a a rancher from where is he from? Minnesota, someplace? I don't know, Middle America, someplace. And he's a full-on big Trump supporter with his big hat and and his RV but he's the sweetest man there is. But we just avoid talking about politics because we find other things. So it creates, you get all sorts of people.
Yeah, I want to congratulate you on your win. I know you won an award at the recent special event show for the event. What if?
Yeah. That was that was a good gig. These gigs don't come across very often. It was an old client that I had done some work for in the past. I did his 50th birthday. I did his wife's 50th birthday as well. And he is he's fairly well off, but he just sold his company at the right time. There's in the right place, right time in Hong Kong.
Okay.
And he was having his 60th birthday, and he's like, Rob, what are we going to do for my 60th? We want to do something special. And he always wanted to have an A-lister. So, the first thing we were doing was we were kind of going, we should get, we'll get Rod Stewart. You really wanted him last time. Well, let's try and get him out. And we were looking at how to do that. And he was like, yeah, that could do it, but let's, we're going to take it up another level. Look, some friends told me about the Orient Express. What can we do on that? And I was like, I don't know, let me find out. So I had to go and ride the Orient Express to go see if it was any good.
Wow.
And it was interesting because originally we were going to go from London to Venice and then have a party in Venice. And the Orient Express was just going to be that would be the party. But then it just kind of kept snowballing and getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. So, it started out, we ended up starting out at the Ritz in Paris, champagne reception. Then we put everybody on the Orient Express for an overnight to Venice. And then we had 2 nights in Venice. We had Kylie Minogue play one night, and then we had Ronan Keating playing on the second night. It just, the whole thing just kept getting, we started out with a budget, and every time I was like, Philip, that's going to be beyond your budget. He's like, yeah, it's okay. I'm like, Philip, this is just going to totally blow our budget. He's like, yeah, it's fine. I'm like, okay. So it was one of those magical things where you have the time, the money, and the right client to be able to really create something special. And it really was. It was phenomenal. It was phenomenal.
Sounds like it. I mean, how often you get a client who pretty much has a bottomless pocket? Not very often you get clients like, I want the experience, and it doesn't matter what the cost is. Do you have that event up on? Have you posted? Are you allowed to post that event? I'd love to see what you did.
Yeah. It's on. I mean, I've got. I stay away from any photos of any attendees or anything. But yeah, there's photos on my blog, stuff on my blog of it. I mean, and they're not, they're not precious. They're not like, we don't want anybody to know what we do. They're
right.
But they're also not like, we want to be in all the magazines. They're really a nice couple, really nice family. And can't wait to see what we do for his wife's 60th.
I mean, it really sounds, Rob, that you've had an amazing journey. I mean, and look at that. Like, I mean, you crossed over from America 30 over years ago, and you started at the bottom, so to speak, and you've just stood strong for 30 odd years, and look at this event that you just won an award. So, I mean, if you were to put it out there for others, especially the newer generation of those coming into events or coming into show business, I mean, what do you teach at your night classes? Like, what would you just put out there to people?
As far as what
just staying relevant, to keep pushing the envelope, to like, how do you get to winning awards? Like, I mean, what does it take? What kind of drive do you need? Like, what do you keep doing?
I think it comes down to very much, doing what you love. You have to love this business because it's shit. It's really hard. It's hard work. People get into it going, oh yeah, champagne, and oh, it's so fancy, and then they do it. And they're like, shit, there's like 2 minutes of that, and there's like a year worth of prep time, and your late night calls, and you're yeah, it's a terrible job, and it's also it's one of the most stressful jobs in the world, number 4, isn't it? So right behind military, firemen, policemen, and then either event managers or airline controllers. It kind of changes. So it's it's a terrible job. So you really have to love it. And if you don't love it, do something else. Do something else, and that's what's going to make you. For me, and everybody is going to have their own thing that drives them to make them do it. For me, I'm an entertainer, and I love entertaining. And I saw early on from the stage, magicians and clowns, they don't have a very good retirement package. And also,
unless you're David Copperfield, though.
Well, yeah. I mean, some do. There's some, but there's not many. But there's that, and also that as from behind the scenes, we're sort of puppet masters. Yes, there's that magician on stage, but it's us that's making him look good. That's making him be engaging, giving the opportunity for him to do his magic, to work with the audience. We're setting up the whole thing. There's much more. There's I do another lecture on the backstage mechanisms of event management, and how I picture us as we're puppet masters back there. You never see us. We're in the back. We're in black. But it's us pulling all those strings, and people don't realize how much power we have over lots of things. Particularly when it comes to things like choices of where the money gets spent. We're making those decisions every day. So when you start to get into environmental concerns, we have a lot of power for that. One of the main things that I'm working on in this next coming year is bringing ISO 20121 2012-1 to event management, which is the event sustainability. Event sustainability management systems to the event community. It's been going for a while. It's great, and our industry needs it. As to inspire people, you just have to love it. I mean, there's no inspiration. Either you do or you don't. I try and keep my students excited by telling them stories that I've had, and some of them do, and some of them realize, you know what, that just really doesn't sound like fun. Right. Staying up all night for 3 days on end before a gig to finish off stuff. That just
Wow. Well, Rob, I tell you what, I really appreciate your time. I mean, it's so nice to speak to a fellow industry mate who I didn't know had the same journey that I've had, and you're obviously you're my sifu. So I would say that you've gone ahead of me, which is great. And I love the fact that you're giving back now, that you're sharing. And I've had a chance to give a few of those sharing sessions. In fact, I had one gig lined up at one of the local universities, and then obviously the shit hit the ceiling. So the professor, she's like, "Don't worry, I'll get you in again as soon as we're back and operating in normal circumstances." I'm like, "Yeah, of course, anytime." But yeah, no, I really appreciate your time, and I think it's stories like this that now that I just look out for and just have a chat with people on this current platform. And I think it's nice to, everybody looks at the glitz and the glam. Like, I mean, whoever would have seen you winning that award, but who knows the story behind Rob, right? Like, who knows where Rob started and the journey? And not many people do. Maybe your close friends too, but how many people in the industry know the journey of what it took for you to get to where you are today, So, and it's all about perseverance and passion, as you clearly said. So, hearing it from somebody else who's tuned the way I am, it's just so refreshing. Because it's always just me preaching the same thing, and I'm like, I'm not the only raving lunatic out there,
Right. No, there's a few of us. Yeah,
which is
no,
why
there's the thing.
right?
Thank you, John. Thank you for inviting me on. It's like I say, I've been in quarantine for 2 weeks. I haven't had anybody to talk to. That's why I'm so
And I mean, I'm just churning out content as much as I can. It's we have to keep us busy up here, man. For people like us, because we're just wired people. We're extroverts as much as we're introverts, but we're extroverts, and being around people is what makes us tick. That's the beauty of our industry, and especially for those of us who have been entertainers or who are entertainers. Without people, we're nothing, right? I mean, you can't exactly entertain yourself. You can't. Well, you could talk to yourself, but that's not going to last very long. Before they throw you in the loony bin.
You won't get much surprise.
Yeah. It'll be nice to one day. I mean, since you still kind of do what you do, it'll be nice to share the stage and see what kind of mayhem we could come up with.
Yeah.
I didn't know your background, man. I really didn't know that. It's a real eye opener. So I'm very happily refreshed to hear I've got a fellow brother of the white face brotherhood. Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I'll put this up. You'll catch it on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, everywhere. And please tell the world your story. More people know me. There we go. So, this is Robert Rogers of EventsMan in Hong Kong, and we'll hear his story soon. Thank you, brother.
Thank you.
Cheers.